WADR, promoting dialogue. It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Praia. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. Reactions trail Usman Sonko's appointment as Prime Minister.
It is a heavy responsibility because it will be necessary to coordinate this action and to lead the teams that will have to work hard to achieve the objectives that we have set within the framework of this policy of the nation, which is now articulated around our program.
An NGO protection cluster reports over 16,000 rights violations in Mali last year due to the deteriorating security situation. Nigerian authority to cut electricity subsidy to ease pressure on public finances. And members of House of Representatives in Liberia disrupt parliamentary session over delayed endorsement of War and Economic Crimes Court resolution.
We are in here to ensure that they think pass. We fought war, we want to go there as everyone was like, why you keep delaying this thing? We must be held liable for it so precedents can be set. We are putting precedents.
Please stay tuned for this details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. Well, let's begin in Senegal, as the newly inaugurated President Bassirou Diomaye Faye appointed as Prime Minister barely 24 hours after assuming duties. The passive party leader Ousmane Sonko was declared the Senegalese coordinated minister in a broadcast late Tuesday at the presidential palace. Until Sonko's appointment as the Prime Minister, speculations were rife that the mayor of Ziguinchor would indeed occupy the position in Diomaye Faye's government. Abdullah Hassan reports that the new Senegalese Prime Minister has promised to serve with due diligence and assist his principal achieve the results.
Barely 24 hours after his inauguration, Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye appointed his party leader Ousmane Sonko as the country's Prime Minister. President Diomaye Faye's choice didn't come as a surprise to many who believe that the two have similar goals, which is to protect Senegal's interests. Sonko will reiterate his commitment, passion and vigor to serve his country in a short speech after his appointment at the presidential palace.
I measure the confidence he placed in our person by appointing us to the responsibilities of Prime Minister of the Senegalese government. It is a heavy responsibility because it will be necessary to coordinate this action and to lead the teams that will have to work hard to achieve the objectives that we have set within the framework of this policy of the nation, which is now articulated around our program. A program that we have developed and defended together in Senegal. The program is entitled For a Sovereign, Just and Prosperous Senegal.
Souverain, juste et prospère.
While the population awaits the list of the cabinet members, a Senegalese political analyst, Mamadou Sy Albert, urges nomination and subsequent confirmation of ministers based on competence. Albert went on to make suggestions to the president, who is advocating a break from the previous setup.
Senegal has been forming governments since 2000 with around 40 ministers and a plethora of special councillors. I think President Bassirou Diomaye Faye is expected to be in the same size. We have to go in the direction of the supremacy of competence that is a proven competence. It doesn't matter if we are young or old. Once you have the skills to be in the administrative field, in the technical field, in the management field, we should prioritize the skills rather than the age.
The official publication of the new cabinet to be headed by Ousmane Sonko is expected before the end of the week.
Abdullah Hassan filed the report. Meanwhile, reactions have been trailing the appointment of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko as the head of the government. Some Senegalese with high expectations have been speaking about the type of government they want in the coming days under President Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
Comme tous les Sénégalais, c'est une attente, forte attente sur un gouvernement.
Like all Senegalese, there is a strong expectation of a government of rupture, a government that will try to put social justice first, also to put emphasis on inequalities, both on the social level and on the level of state affairs management, to establish a certain balance, especially a state of law as well. I want a government of 20 members. This way we will reduce the budget of ministers that will be redistributed to the population. The new government must in the best possible time engage in judicial proceedings against the people who have turned public money as those involved in the scandal of the COVID-19 fund valued at $1 billion. By recovering this money, we can easily face the cruelty of life. I also ask Senegalese to give him a little time because he is young and he must adapt to his new role as President of the Republic. To put it simply, we need a government that will bring together the strong minds, the thinkers, and the young people, a government of young people. If we can have young people with technical background who can help our Senegal to move forward. In terms of politics, there are always reserves. When the camp that is in place decides to call on other people from another camp, it will have to be a unanimous decision.
Dans notre camp, il va falloir que ce soit, une décision unanime.
Those were reactions of some Senegalese with high expectations about the type of government they want in the coming days. Well, let's head to Guinea, where the socio-political actors are continuing to put pressure on the transitional authorities to organize the presidential election. Addressing the press conference in Conakry, the capital, these players requested that the ECOWAS timetable be respected and the electoral register for 2020 be revised. They warned that they will no longer recognize General Mamadi Doumbouya and the CNRD beyond December 31, 2024. Ogeberika tells us more.
Since the announcement that the presidential election would be held in 2025 by the new Prime Minister Amadou Ouripa, false views of the socio-political groups have been stepping up their calls for an election in 2024. Biloba is a member of one of the groups.
Il y a de cela près de 6 mois, nous cessons d'attirer l'attention de l'opinion.
6 months ago, we drew the attention of the national and international community to the inefficacy of the CNRD in either going towards a calendar slip or a confiscation of power, and noting that the exit of the Prime Minister allows us to announce a report that is sufficient proof that we are not going towards a calm atmosphere in the country, and we will not give up and let them do whatever they want. We will continue to reorganize and oppose any form of confiscation of power.
Opposé à toute forme de confiscation du pouvoir.
The argument put forward by the head of government to justify this postponement is the non-availability of the new constitution and the electoral roll. On this issue, the groups are proposing solutions for a return to constitutional order, says Ibrahima Balaya Diallo.
We have a consensus file where all the political actors have agreed. The 2020 file, which we can just dust off and put back in the light of day to go to the elections. But anyway, going to the elections has never been part of the CNRD agenda. 2024 may be a year of crisis for the CNRD because one more extension of transition, it will start to pose problems, whether we want it or not.
The Prime Minister says he is continuing consultations with the social-political players to obtain a consensual postponement of the presidential election.
Ogeberika reporting there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's bring you more stories now as we head to Mali, where more than 16,000 human rights violations were recorded in 2023, an increase of 86% from the previous year. According to the report by Cluster Protection, a group of non-government organizations working to protect people in conflict areas, the deteriorating security situation justifies these violations. In another report published last week, the UN independent expert Alioune Tine expressed concern about the severe closure of civic space in the country. Well, let's turn to Sankuli Janko for more details.
The human rights protection organizations indicate that these cases of violations are due to further deterioration of the security situation in the country. They also point out that the violence perpetrated by non-state armed groups against civilians has led to preventive and forced displacements inside and outside Mali. The report informed that population movements had increased by 254%, while attacks on physical and psychological integrity had risen by 78% in 2023. A number of factors have made the environment for protecting civilians hostile, including the gradual withdrawal of the MINUSMA from the center and north of the country and the resumption of hostilities between the Malian army and armed independence groups. In another report to be published next week, the UN independent expert Alutin expressed his concern about, and I quote, the severe closure of civic space in the country. Since December 2023, at least 4 organizations have been dissolved, including Imam Mahmoud Diko's SEMAS and the Observatory for Elections and Good Governance in Mali. In view of these restrictions, the expert urges the Malian authorities to guarantee full respect for and protection of freedom of expression, opinion, and the press in the country. For their part, the Malian authorities condemn, and I quote, an essentially incriminating report based on cross-checked and exaggeratedly alarming information.
Sankuli Janko reporting there. Elsewhere in Nigeria, security operatives in the northwest region continue to secure the safe release of persons abducted by bandits. On Tuesday, the police command in Katsina revealed its officers freed 30 children, the majority of whom were girls, from their captors. The girls were seized on Monday while in the bush to collect firewood at Kasai village in the Batsari local government area of Katsina State, according to the police public relations officer Abubakar Sadiq. He noted that their release followed a concerted effort by the command in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, which he believed yielded a positive result. Upon receipt of the report, the command swung into action and launched an investigation to rescue the kidnapped victims as well as arrest the perpetrators, he concluded. Well, the news about the 30 freed children comes days after the release of the 137 Kuriga children kidnapped in Kaduna State last month. While staying in Nigeria, the government plans to cut electricity subsidies for 15% of consumers to reduce its 3.3 trillion naira, about $2.6 billion cost, part of a series of reforms to ease pressure on public finances. The presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga, who announced this on Tuesday, noted that the government was under pressure to allow a price increase in the electricity sector, as it only budgeted 450 billion naira for the subsidy this year. He did not say when the tariff increase would come into effect, but said that when it did, the government expected to save close to 1.1 trillion naira per year. Nigeria last reviewed electricity tariff in 2020, according to Onanuga, adding that the proposed increase will help businesses recover costs and boost investment. Well, Sunday Onanuga is an energy expert.
I can say for a fact that we all have to consider economic indices, the reality that we have on the ground, and of course, that is what will determine whether or not there will be a need for an adjustment of the tariff, whether it's going to be downward or upward. Again, that's the job for the regulator, and our regulator are doing their best to ensure that things are done properly and we don't put Nigerians in a more difficult situation. However, there is always a need for cost recovery. You cannot do a business without considering the cost of doing that business. So for now, I can say there's no such an announcement yet from those who have the legal mandate to do that, which is the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Any other media reports to the effect of that is just in the realm of speculation.
That was energy expert Sunday Onanuga speaking there. Well, let's head now to Ghana, where the worsening electricity crisis in the country is seeing major stakeholders in the sector set up to appear before Parliament's Energy Committee this Saturday, April 6. According to the committee's chairman, Samuel Atta Akie, this meeting has been necessitated due to the recent power outages, popularly known as doomsaw, in various parts of the country. According to him, the meeting of all key players in energy value chain would allow the stakeholders to comprehensively address the issues at hand. Mr. Ataki highlighted the importance of a thorough examination of the challenges facing the energy sector, stressing the need for evidence-based discussions rather than engaging in mere propaganda.
It is the members of the committee who are actually running after the minister that we need all the individuals in the value chain to converge. And we've slated time for Saturday, this very Saturday, for us to look at it. So Ghana Gas will be present, PURC will be present, ECG will be present, VNRA, even the chamber of the IPPs, then the GridCo, then Energy Commission, and the minister with his technical team. And then the members of the committee will begin to look at the issues based on the presentation of the grilling and the interrogation. And we have a lot of, strong guys too have done research. They also have their own ways of doing things. And then at the end of the day, we're looking at data. So that which is apolitical. So you cannot come and do propaganda with facts. It don't work. If we don't have the power, you can't, to conjure some propaganda and noise to bring the power. So you need to own up as to why we are having this challenge. Then those who are the experts will look at it and say, look, these are the obvious challenges. You can't wish it away. These are the solutions.
Samuel Atakia is a committee chairman in Ghana's parliament. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Reactions to Ousmane Sonko's appointment as Prime Minister of Senegal. An NGO protection cluster reports over 16,000 rights violations in Mali last year due to the deteriorating security situation. Nigerian authority to cut electricity subsidy to ease pressure on public finances. And still ahead in the news, members of House of Representatives in Liberia disrupt parliamentary session over delayed endorsement of War and Economic Crimes Court resolution. We do have a guest interview, newspaper reviews, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on WADR.org, YouTube, and Facebook. In Liberia, legislative activities were on Tuesday disrupted at the lower house after a group of lawmakers demanded the immediate establishment of War and Economic Crimes courts. The representatives accused the Senate chamber of deliberately delaying its endorsement of the resolution, seeking the creation of the court as promised by the current administration. From Monrovia, Dalitin Popa reports.
The protesting lawmakers accuse the executive branch of government as well as the Liberian Senate of not prioritizing issues relating to the establishment of the courts. Speaking to reporters during the disruption in the chambers Tuesday, Representative Yeke Koluba and other lawmakers vowed never to pass the draft budget into law until the Senate concurs with the War Crimes Court resolution.
We are in here to ensure that they think pass. We fought war. We want to go there and say, why you keep delaying this thing? We must be held liable for it so precedents can be set. We are putting precedents.
The will of the people, the will of the majority must prevail. It is in the opinion of the majority of our colleagues that impunity should not be the order of the day. So I think it is the right of the colleagues.
The situation prompted her Speaker Fonati Kofa to adjourn the sitting, hoping Kamu will return by their next sitting tomorrow, Thursday. Meanwhile, Alex Tyler, the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, now a senator, urged the protesting lawmakers to formulate a bill seeking the establishment of the court and not to rely on the resolution.
This doesn't call for a joint resolution. It calls for a bill emanating from one house to the other. So pass a bill and send it to us. If we disagree, or there are changes there, if we disagree, we'll have a conference committee, harmonize it and pass it into law.
Across the country, civil society actors, including representatives from the United States Congress, are mounting pressure on the new administration to bring to closure war terms atrocity by prosecuting warlords and their financiers. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
The Ivorian government has launched the 2023-24 cocoa marketing season with a 50% increment in the field price from 1,007 francs for the main season last October. Abidjan says the produce will sell for 1,507 francs per kilogram this season. This is the first time in Côte d'Ivoire that the guaranteed minimum price for the intermediate season has exceeded that for the main season. Well, Francis Boniface completes the story.
As requested by cocoa producers in recent days, the Ivorian government has finally decided to increase the price per kilogram of the brown gold. From now on, a kilogram of cocoa will cost 1,500 CFA francs instead of 1,000. Kobenan Kwasi Adjumani is the Ivorian Minister of Agriculture.
This is a price level never achieved in the history of the cocoa industry in Côte d'Ivoire. This is also the first time that the price of the intermediate campaign is higher than that of the people.
The associations of cocoa producers welcome the new measure. Kambusia is the president of the Federation of Coffee and Cocoa Producers Organizations.
1,500 francs compared to 1,000 francs. We say that efforts have been made. We are already saluting the contribution of the head of state. For us, with 1,500, we are starting to approach a price that can be remunerative for the producer. This year, we know that the yields and the states have been very weak. If we don't have a price that reaches 1,500 or more, it will be deficient. It will be able to fill the gap that we are losing in terms of the decrease in yield.
The price of cocoa has more than doubled in the space of a year. Its price has been climbing steadily since the start of 2024, topping the $10,000 mark, or more than 6 million CFA francs this year. Côte d'Ivoire's cocoa production makes up about 40% of the nation's export earnings and more than 50% of the nation's GDP.
Francis Boniface filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's head to Banjul as we join Sankle Janko with the newspaper review.
It is that time of the day again when we bring you the latest news roundup, making the headlines on Gambian dailies. And my name is Sankule Janko. Let's begin with the Point newspaper today. The lead story on the Point newspaper reads, over $1 billion in revenue generated prior to Gamtel Gateway liberalization. This other one reads, reactions pour in over So's spy chief reappointment. Still with the Standard newspaper, Pira resolves planned OMC's strike. This other one reads, Senegal's youngest president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, sworn in. Ghana NSS boss hails Mayor Low as champion of women and youth empowerment. Now, let's move on to the Standard newspaper. The lead story on the Standard newspaper reads, SSHFC donates over $0.5 million worth of food items to sick pensioners. SSHFC is Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. It's a government institution that has donated food items to sick pensioners. MOFA says Germany promises thorough investigations into killing of Gambian. That is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with a photo of Mamadou Tangara, that is the foreign minister. It says Germany has promised to look into the killing of a Gambian in Germany. Senegal's new president promises profound change. That is, of course, Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye. Mambanying appointed deputy ambassador to Cuba. Pira says fuel strike averted. Spanish diplomat calls on opposition leader Dabo. Now, let's take a look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Fourier newspaper. The lead story on the Fourier newspaper reads, vendors claim government's Operation Clear Public Roads could lead to increase in crime rates. President Bassirou Faye takes oath of office. Another story with regard to the newly elected Senegalese president on the Fourier newspaper. Pira resolves oil companies plan strike. Again, this story is also published by the Fourier newspaper. And finally, government says German authorities probing fatal shooting of Gambian immigrant. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies. And it's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Uncle Janko, with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, let's take you back to our first story as reactions are pouring in with the appointment of passive leader Ousmane Sonko as a Prime Minister of Senegal and the head of government. For many, this move is unsurprising. However, the concerns expressed by the likes of Austin Igbe, a governance expert, is the focus on implementing people-friendly policies and programs while avoiding conflict of interest.
Before the inauguration of Faye as president of Senegal, I had opined in another conversation that for some form of conflict in leadership, that Sonko should not be appointed as prime minister. Sonko should remain more like as an advisor, like a leader, rather than a prime minister that is answerable to the president. By Sonko's disposition, there will be, due to human character, at some point in the history of this administration, there's going to be some conflict between the prime minister and the president.
What are these conflicts of interest that you think may arise?
If at the end of the day, the prime minister goes ahead to take a decision without informing the president, and the president then see that, come on, I'm the president. Who are you? Because I appointed you a prime minister, that's already a justification for conflict. And when that happens, Sonko will resign. And when Sonko resigns from that regime, Sonko will begin to fight this administration and calling the young people who supported Sonko, unless Faye is doing the right thing and is carrying the people along. And of course, that Sonko has now misbehaved, in quote, that the people now see him as an enemy of state. That's the only way that Faye can actually succeed. But ordinarily, the real mobilizer for this election is Sonko. If you recall the day they were released, the mammoth crowd that followed Sonko, you saw the euphoria. Meanwhile, Faye was there. A pride can also set in on Sonko. Unless there's that mutual respect between both of them, if pride set in, they will crumble the administration. And in the next 5 years, we are back again discussing what ought not to have happened from the very beginning.
So are you saying that this decision may eventually have implications for the country?
Yes. And the word is may. And I'd like us to underline so that people don't call me 2 years later that Sonko has not done well, Faye has not done well. That I'm bringing up issues. And I'm saying based on the theoretical underpinnings of human character, that the tendency to be proud we set in. But if Sonko is that individual that is very humane, humility personified, is able to advise the president, again, right now, Faye is the president of Senegal. No matter what happened before now is irrelevant.
What are your recommendations to avert a situation like this happening in the near future?
Like I proposed in one of my conversations before, I said they need to both come up with a plan. That plan is what they will run with. For example, who is to be appointed minister? It should be part of the plan. Who is going to be appointed ambassadors of this country? Is going to go to ECOWAS? Is going to go to AU? They have to sit down together and develop a roadmap for the development of Senegal. Only then and then they will not be seen positions. So when Sonko is implementing the plan, Faye already knows the plan. When Faye is implementing the plan, Sonko already knows the plan. As much as possible, they should work in oneness. They must have a plan and run with the plan.
Austin Igbe is a governance expert. Early in sport brief, the Cameroonian Football Federation has expressed its great astonishment after the country's sport ministry appointed Mark Bryars as the new head coach of the Indomitable Lions. The 61-year-old Belgian, who was most recently at OH Leuven, has been chosen to replace former Liverpool and West Ham defender Rigobert Song. Cameroon had a dismal performance in the AFCON 2023 in Côte d'Ivoire after exiting in the round of 16. The appointment of the Belgian, according to football authorities, is meant to rebrand the national team. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Kristen Mukut and Maudoju for the technical assistance. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 1.